and welcome to the Mind, Body, Soul series. Today we're talking about nutrition and how it relates to self-care. Thank you for joining. My name is Megan and I'm a certified nutritional practitioner. For today's session, you will leave with an understanding of what nutrition is, an increased awareness of how important nutrition is and how it relates to our self-care, understand the importance of nutrition to our overall health, and learn some tools and strategies to help you make informed, healthy food choices. Let's start talking about water, and it's really important to understand your own water consumption and raise our awareness of how much water we're drinking each day. So I'd like you to take a minute and fill a glass with water and have it by your side. Here's my water. Have it by your side, and by the end of our workshop, our goal is to finish this glass of water. Did you know that our body is made up of almost 70% water? It's a really important nutrient that our body needs. It performs a lot of functions. It is responsible for helping to lubricate our joints, helps form saliva, and keeps our membranes moist. It helps to flush body waste and toxins out of our body. It helps to regulate our body temperature, and our brain needs it to transport neurotransmitters. So what happens when we don't consume enough? Constipation can be a result, poor kidney function, low energy. So here's a note. Next time you're feeling like you don't have a lot of energy or just don't have that drive, maybe take stock and wonder if you've had enough water or hydrating foods that day. So it could be what's causing your low energy. So take a glass of water and see how you feel after. And how do we find out if we are hydrated? So one easy way is to take a look at our urine and the color of our urine. We want it to be slightly yellow, not dark yellow, not orange, and we don't want it to be clear. We want a little bit of yellow. So that's a really easy way to tell if you're hydrated or not. Something that I like to practice is having some warm lemon water first thing in the morning. It's really beneficial for our digestion. And warm water is preferred as it's easier for our body to assimilate and digest. If you think about cold and how cold causes our body to constrict, the same thing happens when you consume cold water and it goes through your digestive system. So warm water is gentler on our body. The benefits of having lemon water in the morning is that it helps boost our digestion. Lemon is acidic and it can help increase those stomach acid levels, which are needed to break down and digest food. And this is important as our stomach acid levels actually decrease as we age and also are affected by stress. Lemon water is helpful for hydration. And when you wake up in the morning, it can be a good practice to have a glass of water before you do anything because your body is dehydrated. It's really been working all night to perform those tasks while you're sleeping and you are dehydrated. So try to remember to have a glass of water, especially before you have some coffee, because coffee is dehydrating. Water is also helpful for helping to detox. There's a compound in lemon called limonene, which is a powerful antioxidant and it helps promote the phases of our liver detoxification. So we talked about water as the first important nutrient, but let's go back and talk about what is nutrition. Basically, the Webster Dictionary says it's the act or process of nourishing or being nourished. So what we put into our body can have an impact on what our body is doing and whether it's nourished and hydrated and whether we're getting enough nutrients. I really believe that the body is a complex system that can heal itself. And more people are realizing that we are in control of our health more than ever. And of course, this relates back to our self-care, which is why that we're here. In terms of nutrition, consuming food is necessary for growth and our overall health. And if we want to talk about optimum nutrition, it's really giving our body what it needs to be as healthy as it can be and to heal and nourish itself. There really is a lot of information available out there about food and nutrition, and it's really readily available. But I think it's really important for us to have some basic understanding and knowledge of things like where to buy our food, what to buy, what to eat, planning our meals, how to prepare our food, and having our pantry stocked are really going to help us make some good decisions down the road. How does food make us feel? Being aware and tuning into how our body feels during and after eating can give us some valuable information about what foods we want to continue eating and what foods we may want to limit or avoid altogether. And most people don't relate what they're eating and what they're putting into their body to how they're feeling afterwards. So for example, do you have a meal and feel energized afterwards? Do you know the term hangry, which is actually a cross between being hungry and angry? Have you gotten fast food and after eating you feel bloated, had some gas, or even had a stomach upset? Do you feel shaky and jittery when you haven't eaten for a while? This is actually our body telling us that our blood sugar is low and we need to eat. Or have you had turkey dinner and afterwards felt very sleepy? This is actually the tryptophan in the turkey itself. So these are all important clues that our body is telling us. So the first step is really being aware of how your body and mind feel around food. Healthy eating is a form of self-care. Self-care is really about being aware of what nourishes us and making choices that fill us up rather than deplete us. Healthy eating is important for our energy levels, to keep our energy levels going throughout the day, helpful for our mood and our emotional states. It's important to eat a well-rounded diet that is full of vitamins and minerals to help our body function, as well as our diet can have an impact on our risk of disease. So studies show that the diet can play a big role in the development of many diseases like heart disease and diabetes. So I mentioned nutrients, but what are nutrients? There are two types of nutrients, macronutrients and micronutrients. Macronutrients are those nutrients that our body needs in larger amounts. These are things like protein, fat, carbohydrates, and water. Micronutrients are nutrients that our body needs less of, and those are vitamins and minerals. Protein is a macronutrient that our body needs in a large amount. And proteins are made up of hundreds or thousands of smaller molecules called amino acids. Our body makes protein and stores it, but we also need to obtain it from our diet, and these are called essential amino acids. So why is protein important, and why do we need to understand what protein does in our body? It's because it's important for growth and development. So if we're not consuming enough protein, this could be impacting how we are growing and how we're developing, which can be especially important for children. Protein is a source of energy for our body. So if we're not consuming enough, we could be feeling tired. And protein is needed to perform a lot of body functions, things like making antibodies, hormones, enzymes, making muscles, bones, and tissues. And the amount of protein is important as well. If we're having too much protein, then we're probably not consuming enough nutrients in other areas such as fiber and fat, and these could be in the forms of fruits and vegetables. And if we're consuming too little protein, this can lead to things like weight loss, muscle atrophy, and fatigue. Let's talk about sources of protein. There's two types, complete and incomplete sources of protein. The complete sources of protein are things like meat, fish, dairy, eggs, quinoa, soy, hemp, and chia seeds. And complete means that they have all the 9 essential amino acids. Incomplete means that they don't have all the essential amino acids in that food, and we need to combine food sources in order to achieve that. These are things like vegetables, fruit, nuts, seeds, grains, and legumes. So this is especially important for those who don't eat animal products and therefore need to consume various sources of protein. And some examples of food combining are things like brown rice and beans, hummus, whole grain pitas, maybe some whole grain noodles with some spinach and peanut sauce. And research has shown that you actually don't need to eat complementary proteins all together at the same meal, but you can eat various types of proteins throughout the day, and you're going to get your essential amino acids that way. Carbohydrates, or carbs, are another macronutrient, and they are the body's most preferred and usable energy source. They're a source of vitamins and minerals, they provide us with fiber, and they feed the good bacteria in our gut. People think that they need to eliminate carbohydrates from their diet in order to lose weight, but actually the amount and type of carbohydrate is important to consider. The difference between the two types of carbs, simple and complex, is based on their chemical structure, how quickly they're digested and absorbed, and how they affect our blood sugar. And blood sugar balancing is really important in our body. Two types of carbs are simple and complex. Simple cause a dramatic spike in our blood sugar, which then is followed by a rapid crash, and that's when you're feeling that need to eat that food again. You're feeling like you have to have that food again because you need to bring your blood sugar back up, but then it goes down and then goes back up, and we have this cycle going. Simple carbohydrates are less efficient at also keeping us full and energized. Complex carbohydrates are things like brown rice, whole wheat flour, fruits, vegetables, quinoa, and beans. And complex carbs are rich in fiber. They keep our blood sugar balanced, so no spike and drop. And they are great at keeping us full. Fiber is something we talked about on the previous slide, but let's dig a little bit deeper because it's an important concept to understand in terms of our digestion. Fiber is a type of carbohydrate that the body can't digest. It helps to regulate the body's use of our sugars, helps keep us full, and keeps our blood sugar stable. Fiber also helps with elimination and removal of toxins because it helps our food move through our digestive system and then get removed. There are two types of fiber: soluble fiber, which dissolves in water and forms a gel. These are in things like fruits and vegetables. And these are important to understand because they can soften our stool when we're constipated. These increasing the amount of soluble fiber in our diet is going to help with that. Whereas insoluble fiber absorbs liquid and adds bulk to our stool. So these are found in cereals and whole grains, and these can help when we have loose stool and we want to form stool. We can add insoluble fiber to our diet. Fat is another macronutrient that our body needs in large amounts. It's gotten a bad rap, but it really is important for many key functions in our body. We need fats in order for our body to absorb those fat-soluble vitamins from our food, like A, D, and E, and K. Fat forms the lining of every cell in our body, so you can imagine how important that is for the functioning of our brain. Fat provides insulation in our body, and it also regulates our temperature, and it also is needed to make hormones. Fat is also important in managing how sugar is processed in our body. Fat slows the release of glucose in food and is important for blood sugar balance. So we talked earlier about how important blood sugar is. We need to consume fiber, fat, and protein in every meal to help keep our blood sugar balanced. Sources of fats. Essential fatty acids such as omega-3 and 6 are needed from our diet, and these omegas can help with memory and reducing inflammation. So better sources of oils such as olive, coconut, flax, and hemp. Avocados are great sources. Fish, hemp, olives, nuts and seeds such as walnuts and pumpkin seeds, and fats are important for energy. Fats, as we talked about, can be beneficial to our body in many ways, but all fats are not created equal. Some fats help reduce inflammation and help with memory, such as omega-3s, and some fats create inflammation and can cause damage to our cardiovascular system. This is based on the type of oil and how it's processed. When you're looking for oils, I would suggest looking for oils in dark glass containers versus the clear plastic bottles. Clear plastic bottles can create trans fatty acids, which can can cause free radical damage, which is harmful to our body. When we're talking about oils, it's important to note the smoking point. So smoke point refers to the temperature at which an oil starts to burn and smoke. When you cook with oil that's been heated past its smoke point, it's going to taste burnt, and the beneficial nutrients are destroyed and the harmful free radicals are created. So if you're using high heat, use oils with a high smoking point. So things like ghee, coconut oil, avocado oil, and olive oil. When you are using no heat or low heat, then you can use oils with a low smoking point, such as butter and flax oil. Let's talk about sugar. We know that sugar occurs naturally in all foods that contain carbohydrates, such as fruits, vegetables, and grains, and consuming these whole foods that contain these natural sugars is okay. These plant foods are high in fiber, they're high in antioxidants and essential minerals. And our body actually digests these sugars slowly, and our body uses these sugars as a natural energy source. So they can be beneficial for our body. The challenge arises when we add sugar to the diet, or when food manufacturers add sugar to the diet to increase the flavor or extend shelf life. And really, there are a lot of foods that have added sugar that we would never expect. So it's important to read our food labels and know if there's sugar or added sugar in these products. Going back to being aware of what we're eating, how does sugar make us feel? Are we hyperactive? Are we lethargic? How does sugar make our kids feel? How are they doing after eating a lot of sugar? It's something to take note of and be aware of what we're eating and whether we need to make some changes. We know that there's a study that consuming sugar can decrease our immune function up to 5 hours after eating. We know that white refined sugar is stripped of all nutrients and not beneficial in any way. And excess sugar in our diet can result in obesity, diabetes, and it can have serious heart health impacts. Digestion is really, consuming some food, having it broken down in our body, whether it's chewing or our digestive enzymes. Those food particles are broken down in our digestive system into molecules that our body can utilize, whether it's used to nourish our cells or our organs, or whether it's used for a source of energy. That's what's happening. So it's really a good idea to be mindful of how certain foods make us feel, and it gives us an indication of how we are digesting. Do we feel good after eating a meal? Do we feel full, or do we feel bloated, constipated, or do we have loose stool? Those are really good indications of something's happening. If things are moving through our digestive system too fast, like in the case if you're eating and drinking coffee at the same time, those nutrients are not being absorbed. Coffee actually signals our stomach to release the contents actually before it's had enough time to absorb. If food is not being absorbed, or our digestive juices and enzymes aren't working very well, then that waste matter is being re-released back into our body instead of getting eliminated through our stool. What affects digestion? Diet, sugar, high sugar, refined foods, caffeine, poor chewing, food intolerances or allergies are all things that are going to be affecting our digestion. So one of the ways we can think about our health is to liken it to a rain barrel. It's called the barrel effect. And we know that our body is exposed to many different factors on a daily basis, and it can keep adding to that rain barrel. And once we get to a certain capacity, things are going to overflow and it's going to affect our health. Sometimes it can just be the littlest thing that puts things over the top, but we know that it's been an accumulation of exposure over time. So what are the things that can impact the capacity of our barrel? Well, things like our diet. What are our food choices? Are we eating a lot of processed food? The chemicals and preservatives in our food can have an impact and add to that barrel. Our emotional and mental stress. Are we under a lot of stress over time? Do we have anxiety? How do we cope with stress? Can all have a factor. Environmental and chemical exposure. So our increased screen time, the chemicals in our body products, our cleaning products are all adding to that barrel. And our daily habits. Are we getting enough sunlight? Are we getting enough exercise? Are we connecting to other people on a social level? These can all have an impact. So what happens when our barrel overflows? We get tired, sleep issues, we can have heightened sensitivities, skin rashes all of a sudden, sensitive to smells or perfumes all of a sudden, or lights, sounds, certain chemicals. These can all be a factor. Mindful eating may be a new idea to you, but it's the act of slowing down, taking the time to eat and being thankful for what we're eating. It's to enjoy the whole sensory experience of eating. It's really sitting down, trying to be present and thankful for eating the food that we have, and thinking about, where did it come from? What farmer grew this apple? How did it get to me? I'm thankful for this process. It doesn't just magically appear out of air. Eating with others at a table is a really nice mindful experience. It's a very different experience when you eat by yourself than eating, at a holiday table with your friends and family. We look forward to that. We have special foods that we eat. We have, different rituals for holiday meals when we eat together. So it's a really nice experience. Chewing our food is an important part of digestion and part of enjoying. We smell the food that we're eating, and then we taste the food that we're eating, and that's a whole experience from start to finish. When we eat on the go, we don't chew our food, and we eat under stress. This all impacts our digestion negatively, and then our digestive system has to work even harder. So taking the time to sit and eat our food is part of mindful eating. Food labels really can be confusing. Marketing companies can purposely be misleading and focused on marketing instead of our health. They can try and entice you to make an emotional purchase or exaggerate the health qualities of a product, and that is called health washing. Once you start reading the labels, I promise you'll be more aware and you'll be able to make better decisions. A tip is that the ingredients on a label are listed in order of the highest quantity first. So if you see sugar or fructose, glucose as the top ingredient, you might want to look for alternatives where sugar is further down the list of ingredients or not even there at all. Be aware of what is real food, real or whole food, and what is processed food. Real food is easy. It's things that it's broccoli, it's an apple, it's avocado. Processed food is food that has been altered from its original state and combined with other chemicals or other food or other processes to make a processed food. If you don't understand, or if you look at the label and you don't understand what many of the ingredients are, you might want to choose an alternative. Look for ingredients that don't agree with you. If you know that you don't do well with corn, then avoid corn in the ingredients. If you don't know what an ingredient is, then look it up on your phone at the grocery store. I promise you, once you're more aware, you'll be able to make better choices. A lot of people wonder whether they should be buying organic produce or not, and what does it mean? So traditional farming practices use different types of chemical fertilizers and pesticides to grow their crop and to ward off pests so that they can have a good crop. Organic farming doesn't use any chemicals or pesticides in their fertilizer, and they are grown in a different way. So it's hard because organic food can be expensive. It's grown in a different way. There's more time and care taken into it versus big crop farming, and it's not easy to find everything organic. So what do you do at the grocery store? How do you decide? The Dirty Dozen list is a list that the Environmental Working Group puts out every year, and it's a list of the top 12 foods that have the most amount, when they're measured, the most amount of pesticide residue on these foods. So this is a good list to have with you at the grocery store, because you can, if you are going to buy anything organic, it would be some of these food products that would be beneficial for you to focus on. So strawberries, spinach, kale, collard greens, nectarines, apples, grapes, peppers, cherries, peaches, pears, and celery, and tomatoes. The Environmental Working Group also puts out another list called the Clean 15, and these are the least amount and lowest concentration of pesticides on non-organic produce or fruit. So this is another great list to take with you to the grocery store. I just take a picture and save it on my phone. And these are the produce that you don't need to focus on purchasing organic. These are avocados, corn, pineapple, onions, papaya, frozen sweet peas, asparagus, honeydew melon, kiwi, mushrooms, cabbage, cantaloupe, mangoes, watermelon, and sweet potatoes. So again, the Environmental Working Group comes out with these every year, so it's a good idea to keep these on your phone, as I said, and it's an easy resource list to look at. Here are 10 takeaways that you can leave with today. First being, buy the bulk of your food, if you can, from the perimeter of the grocery store. That's where all the whole and real food are, and if you notice, all of the processed food is in the middle of the store. Read your labels. We talked about understanding, what the ingredients are in your food, and avoid the items that you can't pronounce or you don't know what they mean. Avoid sugar as the top ingredient. Avoiding artificial food dye. Buying local, organic, and in season when possible. Farmers markets and local shops are going to have the freshest food versus something that's come from another country. Drink more water. We talked about water right from the start, and it's an important factor in our overall health. Eating the rainbow of fruits. So try and get as many different colors on your plate throughout the day, and it's going to ensure that you get enough fiber throughout the day and enough nutrients into your meals. Meal planning is an important tool that we can use. It saves time, and it actually prevents you from making poor food choices. And consuming fiber, fat, and protein in every meal helps keep our blood sugar balanced. And again, being aware and listening to our body and how that food makes us feel. Is it something we should be having again or something to avoid? This is a list of resources of some people that I follow and that I like to look at their content. Dr. Mark Hyman is on social media. He seems to be everywhere right now. He's got cookbooks. He's got lots of information to share. And the next couple are a nutritionist, a cookbook author, and functional nutritionist in Toronto. And then Mind Body Green website has a lot of great resources. And the last one is a plant-based cookbook that I like to use. She's got a few different cookbooks that I like. And once you start looking at some of these and getting some ideas, you might have some ideas of your own and be introduced to new people, and it goes on from there. So again, everything is about awareness and taking little steps towards your health. So these are some great resources maybe that you want to take a look at. We hope that you will register and take a look at all of the events that Surrey Place has online. There's live events and there's recorded events and resources as well. And get involved. Join our Family Connections group on Facebook. Thank you for joining us, and we welcome your feedback. Please take a moment to complete a brief survey to share your feedback with us. You can scan this QR code by taking a picture with your camera on your phone, or copy the link and complete it that way. Thanks again.